Well, I seem to have been designated to do a welcome. I have nothing prepared. Can you guys hear everything?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing prepared. It's just, it's exciting to see things starting up again. I anticipated that sooner or later this would happen. And I'm looking forward to hearing what the next steps may be. So I'll turn it over to Gordon for a review of past.
Of the past. And looking to the future. Yes, well, welcome everyone. It might be good if, because we do have some new people here, and welcome, since I think we figured out this committee hasn't met in almost 2 years. We've been probably going through the federal environmental review process, and we finally got the green light to go ahead and start the design. But time has marched on, and during that time, the upper Housatonic has been declared a wild and scenic river, which also means that now we have with us participating in the process representatives of the National Park Service. So anyway, so I thought, as there are new players, we could go around and just introduce ourselves, who we are, what we're doing. And one other thing I thought of, we have an agenda here that we would hear from members of the committee after Steve talks. So, and there's public comment too from the people that are joining us. So I'm Gordon Ridgway, First Selectman, and during the past while I've been working with Steve McDowell, our engineer, to get us through the environmental review process that's required of federal projects. And we did hire an environmental engineering firm called Eagle Environmental from Thomaston, who took probably the better part of the year to review the work that Steve had done. And we got most of the way through the environmental review process. We published our findings, that he published the findings of Eagle Environmental, that there was no substantial environmental impact as a result of this project. And then we did have a public comment period, which did raise a bunch of comments. And at that point, the people from HUD last June asked us to put the environmental review on hold until the plans are completed, so we could answer some of the questions that came up in the public, which was fine with us, because we wanted to get onto the design, move the project forward. And then we had to adopt an action plan to get the green light, which we have, and just so to let people know what we submitted to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, an action plan that takes form that we hope we can get the geotechnical work done this summer and fall. This is also, I think, probably a pretty ambitious plan, but it seemed like the first thing would be get the geotechnical investigation done, get wetlands delineation done, topographic and boundary surveys, then going into the winter, start the system designs, including plant lines, plant and lines, have a public process, regularly scheduled meetings for interested parties, and then resume. As we pause the environmental review, we have to then go back and have another environmental review, which means a lot of notifying interested parties, including Native American tribes and other people that might be interested, including environmental groups, and present the design to the Housing and Urban Development Department, federal government, because they are funding approximately half of the project. They have a lot of say in what happens, and they will not fund a project that has negative environmental overall impact. We also present to the Tornado Health District, who we've been working with all along, the Scott River Wild and Scenic Group, the National Park Service, Connecticut DEP, and other interested citizens and the public. And after that review happens, hopefully sometime in 2026, we'll start a bidding process and be able to start construction in 2026, and then get the system operational in 2027. So that's a ways away, but it seems like these things take more time than we had wished, maybe sometimes, but there are a lot of interested people. It's a very important place that we're working in. So that's roughly what we had looking forward. Some sort of timeline is what we're doing. And so that's what I had. But, so that's who I am, that's what I have at this point. And I thought maybe we could go around the room and identify ourselves, who we are, what our roles are. And start with Dave, and I know this may be Dave's last meeting as he's moving from town, but he has been here since the beginning, which I think is almost 8 years since we started talking about this program. This has been in the town plan for almost 20 years. And we started talking with DEP and Strout, who is still working with the Department of Environmental Protection. So Dave's been here from the start, and appreciate his and everybody's time that spent countless hours trying to make what seems like a necessary improvement come about. So Dave, any long-term perspective and thoughts?
Well, we've worked a long time on this. And I think we've made progress as it relates to, as Gordon was saying, you know, some of the things that we have to do and how we can do it. It's complicated.
Yes.
And so it's good to have us all together again. And hopefully we can move forward and make some progress.
Yeah.
So I'm turning to Nick as the chair for,
until umpteen years, whatever it's been. Well, I made my remarks to begin with, and as I said, I'm really looking forward to what the next steps are going to be. I've got to say, I'm incredibly startled, Gordon is the word I would use, by the way in which you've managed to navigate through, as Dave puts it, a very complicated subject and issue, which has many, many moving parts, and just when they stop moving, they start moving again. So my hat's off to you and the effort that you've made. We'll see where this actually leads, but I'm looking forward to what our next steps are going to be.
thank you for continuing to carry the torch. So we have Jennifer Margo.
Jennifer, Robert Marco, Selectman, just kind of joining in to see everything that's going on and just helping the process there that we went through for the environmental studies and stuff.
Yeah. And Jane Hall is here, my incredibly able assistant, and I would like to credit Jane and Barbara Herbst, our financial officer, for spending countless hours trying to meet the federal requirements, understand the portal, the posting requirements, the publication requirements, which frankly we were not prepared for as far as the amount of work that it would take to get us back to get a green light. Initially we were told not to take any limiting actions while the review was happening, and they said you don't have enough information for us to review. But to get to those simple actions took a lot of time. Probably we spent more time in our office dealing with this than anything else in the last 2 years. So thanks so much for Jane considering that couldn't have mastered the electronic presentations and reporting requirements that were required by the federal government. And I think we may have to hire another person to help us deal with the environmental review process, or Steve does or something, because I think it's quite, as you do, it's startling how much work maintain moving things forward. So, Bill Herbert.
I'm Bill Hurlbert, and I'm new on this committee. I joined after it was approved by the town for the bonding part, although I've lived in Cornwall my entire life. I'm hoping we can, I'd like to see something get done here. The paperwork is incredible what we've had to do.
Right.
For all these things, it's like, wow. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, glad to have you on board. Bill has a lot of contracting experience and stuff, so we have a very diverse committee here. And Richard?
Hi, I'm Richard Griggs, a concerned business owner. My wife has a shop in West Cornwall, and we're just hoping that the septic system will go through, and so we can hook up to it.
Yeah, great. And our new friends from the National Park Service.
I'm actually not with National Park Service.
Okay.
We're here together.
Adjacent.
Yes.
Okay.
As you know, I'm Madeline. Sure. As you know, the Houstonic River was recently designated wild and scenic, and Houstonic River Commission is their coordinating committee with that funding. And so the first thing they decided to do with that funding was hire me. So I'm their new program manager, and I kind of just help run their meetings and get their work plan projects completed with the federal funding that they have. And as I understand, you guys met with them, the River Commission, a couple years back. So I'm just here on their behalf.
Yeah, no, Bart Jones and Phil Hart are very active in our approval process, so I think they're still on the committee. And,
Yes.
and I believe you are headquartered in downtown West Cornwall.
That's
Is that
true.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're right at ground zero, so you'll
Yeah.
have an easy commute to see what's going on.
Yes.
That's
In
great.
Bart's building?
In the,
The Cornwall Conservation Trust, yeah.
Trust.
HRC is now also based out of there, which is awesome. So
Got a
great.
brand new sign. looks
brand new
great.
sign.
Yeah, well, welcome to town.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was one of the letters I didn't see in this collection, was the one from the River Commission. I think there was
Okay.
one. Did we have a
Yeah,
River
I
Commission?
can't, I don't know about all that, but I know that
There was two.
there was testimony provided by Bart and Phil on the necessity for doing this
Right.
project at the time. Yeah, so anyway, thank you, welcome. And then we have.
I'm Jackie
Oh,
Gaddis.
oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm Jackie Gaddis. I'm a community planner with the National Park Service. I am the river manager for the Houstonic Wild and Scenic River, so I am their MPS liaison. And so I think, Gordon, I sent you an email like a few months ago. And
Okay.
I think I also contacted Jane, which is how
Yes.
I became aware of this. So and I can talk more about it later, but with the river being designated wild and scenic, any construction or work on the bed or the banks of the river require NPS to just come in and review the plans to make sure that the construction is to the benefit of the river. It's not being detrimental to the river, and not that I'm assuming that this project is going to like ruin the river or anything, but because it's designated wild and scenic, we have a legislative right to make sure that the outstandingly remarkable values for which the river was designated are protected and enhanced moving forward. So there's actually a section of the legislation of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act that requires federal administering agencies to review any plans that are being implemented on the river of which is designated. So my part in this is to just review any plans that you all come up with for the construction and to be in consultation with HUD as federal entity, just so that because by what is written in the legislation, they cannot release funding until we've signed off approving the project and written this thing called the Section 7 determination. So pretty much just saying like, NPS approves the project because of like blah, 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 or if there's something that, we can work in partnership with in the plans. So for example, like there are certain requirements, not necessarily requirements, but certain things that we like to see at the Park Service for our designated rivers that may not be common in like an Army Corps permit or something like that, but just that we would like to see in plans to make sure that the river is meeting its wild and scenic requirements. if that makes sense. So we're just here to be kind of like coordinating partners with, I'm not here trying to like stop your project or anything like that. Like I want to see like this be built and whatnot. It's just a matter of like protecting the river and especially for those values for which it was designated for. So yeah, if you have any other questions, go
When
ahead.
did, Gordon mentioned that it got designated within the last 2 years?
Yeah, so the wild and scenic, so there are 2 new rivers added to our system in the omnibus bill that was signed into law by Joe Biden in December 2022. So it is like very new. And so
And it's the whole river?
it's 41 miles from the Massachusetts border down to Boardman Bridge in New Milford, Connecticut. And so that entire stretch of river is now designated wild and scenic and
Hadn't it been already designated?
No, so there
No
was,
federal designation.
No,
yeah, so there
oh,
was
it's
a-
state?
No?
there was a initiative to study the river back in 1978, after the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act was passed in 68. But because there was some discrepancy between the way that our National Park Service was implementing the program at the time, there wasn't the infrastructure set up in place to provide support for the local folks who wanted to manage the river. And so out of that was developed a Partnership Wild and Scenic Rivers program, which is the program that I work for, which while we are the federal administering agency, we really work in partnership with HRC to manage the river and steward the river based on their management plan. And so like I'm that liaison between the federal agency that administers the river, but they're really the ones on the ground managing the river, and they're the ones that have to say. So there was like, since I think it started up again in 2016, a new evaluation was done to make sure that the river was still eligible for wild and scenic status. And then they were trying to go down like a state designation route, but then there was no infrastructure in place at the state level through DEEP, because I think they like got rid of a program or something. So then they switched to congressionally designated. So that was signed into law, like I said, in December of 22.
I seem to remember some guy who worked up at the Interlock being really involved in that.
Dan. That might be Dan.
Dan, both right.
That might be Dan here.
Is he here? Oh, my
There is a Dan. Maybe Dan in a bit. We'll find out whether it's Dan from the Interlock and not. So,
Interesting, thank you.
yeah, I think it's great because, as you know, we have been, for lack of a better word, a bit struggling with getting through the federal process, and to have someone who can liaison
Yeah, no,
here
absolutely.
in our meetings will help us get through it, and I think we're all working towards the same thing. One of the
Oh, yeah,
biggest
exactly.
things was to keep the, it is because there is no wastewater program for West Cornwall. All the effluent goes one way or the other into the river, and this is trying also to keep the village of West Cornwall, which is so important to visitors, alive.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's real opportunities, and especially if you can help us with our federal partnerships. I think it's a great development to get through this.
Yeah, well, I can try.
Great. So anyway.
Some federal partners, I'm like, hello?
Right, and I know there's all sorts of projects
Yeah.
all over the place, but
Yeah, terrific.
I think this is a good development. So let's just keep on going around. There's Bruce Whiteford. Bruce, you want to say a few words?
I'm a Cornwall resident, and I, like Bill, are relatively newcomer to the board. I think I went through a couple of meetings before we went on a little bit of a hiatus, but I look forward to resuming the meetings and making progress on the system.
Great. And Rocco is here, also from the Board of Selectmen. He's got the best background. He's not in West Cornwall right now.
No, not quite West Cornwall, but it's great to see everyone here tonight. Rocco Bada, selectman here. And yeah, this is probably the largest capital project in the history of Cornwall, so I'm excited to be involved in this and to assist in any way I can, so thanks very much.
Great. And Richard Bramley's here, who's also the town treasurer. Keep track. We don't go off a financial cliff. So welcome, Richard. He's a longtime participant in the process. Any comments, Richard, former selectman?
Well, just that it's been a long time. I think Todd and Dave and you, Gordon, have been doing this. I've been following along as a selectman and now the treasurer for about 10 years, 8 years. How long has it been?
Don't look at me.
Right. Great. So
Anyway, it's good to see that.
50 years.
That progress is being made and that large steps will be taking place.
great. And I see we do have some members of the public that are encouraged to speak at the end of the meeting. Hey, Kevin, any comments now?
No, I'm just saying, we're here on behalf of the Cornwall Colleges, because obviously there's a lot of interest in this, and that's all.
Great. Your wife is chair of the Cornwall Conservation
That's
Commission.
right, so I'll be
there's-
a little bit short.
There you go. Great. So, any other members of the public want to check in at this point?
This is Gary Anderson calling from Oxford, Connecticut, just a casual observer. Very interested in preserving the rivers. I do spend a lot of time up on the Housatonic as well as the Farmington. And I want to thank you for allowing us to participate in this meeting.
Great, and you're more than welcome. And what our goal is to have these meetings every month at about this time. So, and again, these are public meetings. They very important that people see what's going on. So we will have a public comment period at the end of the meeting. So one other person who's been anchoring this ship, Steve McDonald, our engineer, who was elected competitive process probably 7 years ago. And Steve, any thoughts of the future where we're at? Because really a lot of the work's going to be, the work schedule is going to be up to you now that we've gotten the green light to proceed.
Yeah, I'd like to start out by saying thank you to you and your staff. I mean, people don't realize the efforts you've gone through to get where we are. I mean, you accept the federal grant and you think, oh, everything's hunky-dory, but holy crow, the work that has gone into moving ahead has been incredible. To lock up the money, actually, it's been beyond comprehension. And I've worked a lot of federal agencies, but this HUD business is like, wow. So yeah, you guys deserve a round of applause to get where we've gotten, really. You and your staff, really, it's unbelievable. The other comment I'd like to make is, National Park Service, we've done personally, I've done a number of projects with NPS on other wild and scenic rivers, and they're great to work with. And their objectives are our objectives, to improve the water quality of the Housatonic River and serve the area of West Cornwall. So I think our objectives are the same. And as we have talked about in many of our meetings, the purpose of our project is to improve the water quality, essentially. Instead of having almost like raw sewage going into the Housatonic, unattenuated, we're going to produce essentially drinking water from this area to go into the Housatonic. In fact, it's going to be better water quality than the water of the Housatonic itself. So we see this as a positive benefit to the river, and we think it's a great project, and we look forward to working with it. I mean, National Park Service, quite honestly, okay, close your ears in National Park Service. It does add another level of permitting and issues and concerns, certainly, but we like that because we think it's important to keep, them happy and us happy and everybody environmentally conscious of the project. So we think it's a great thing to have them involved in the project. And I think it's a great feather in everybody's hat to have the river, that length of river designated as wild and scenic. It's incredible, really. So that's really good, really good. So going forward, the next steps, now that we've given the go-ahead, is to start the actual design process. As Gordon mentioned earlier, the first steps are to get wetlands delineated, survey, topographic and boundary surveys completed, and some geotechnical investigations into the borings and such, to know what kind of underground conditions we're going to encounter. We've done some borings already up by proposed treatment plant site. We need some additional borings along the roadways to determine rock and groundwater elevations to make sure that's considered in the design process. And those are the first steps. We're just gearing up our staff to move ahead, and I don't want to start on a bad note, but everybody seems busy right now. Surveyors are busy, boring contractors are busy, but the intention is to this fall get the preliminary work, the borings done, the survey done, the wetlands delineated, and then start design work during the winter time period. The design is fairly straightforward in terms of the collection system. The more complicated part is actually the treatment system. Working with some companies that do this work constantly, and so we're confident we can get this done. And then the permitting is going to be the big issue here to make sure, because there's quite a number of permits that will be gone through. So Gordon's time frame I think is accurate in terms of actually getting towards construction. The only thing you can hang yourself really is the permitting side of things. But again, we've got conceptual approval from DEP for this project, so I don't think that's going to be a real issue. And again, working with the National Park and anybody else, Army Corps, etc., I think we can get this, moving straight ahead to the construction phase. So again, our work is just starting, so we're just gearing up our staff ready to rumble, and we're pleased to be moving ahead. So look forward to it finally. I mean, I've been involved, obviously, not 8 years, I don't think, but a number of years. So look forward to actually moving ahead with this. I think it's a great project. Those are my comments, I think, at this point, unless you have questions for it or for anybody else.
No, this brings back the work that we have done. I think Todd and I went to DEP headquarters in Hartford, and we've been working with them, getting their advice and things. So again, it's all about trying to make the place better. And went down to Saybrook a couple times, saw their systems there. That certainly benefited the Long and Sound area. So again, trying to get something that's appropriate scale for our small place, in place, trying to answer people's concerns. Will be a process, but I think feels good to be back at it.
Can I ask, what kind of surveys are we talking about? Property line surveys or elevation?
Yes, yep, all the above, yep.
And how much, the survey, like a Class A survey, so we know exactly where everything is?
Well, that depends. I mean, typically, for some projects, we go as a Class D survey. In certain instances, we'll go to Class A surveys, which is a much more accurate type of survey to know exactly where the property lines are. If we need easements from folks, which we probably will, because the proposed system is actually what they call a low-pressure system. So we're going to be going on people's properties to install a sewer line and probably a grinder-type pump situation to get to the treatment system. So in that case, we're going to be going on people's properties. But there's some innovative ways to get property access without necessarily having a real super accurate, very expensive A2 type of survey. And that's what we'll be looking at. But the first step is to get the topography, as you mentioned, and the property lines, at least to a Class D level initially. But then we'll go from there in terms of if we need anything more accurate for whatever purposes.
Because Steve, a lot of that area we're talking about is in the state right of way, and that's all heavily monumented since the 1930s when that came in. So that's pretty much been settled by the state.
Yeah, there are probably some property lines in question on the right of way, and then also we're going to be going on people's properties, and there may be some issues there. But I've got some ways of working. We've done some of these low pressure systems in very confined areas, for example, around Highland Lake and Winstead, where people's septic systems were located on the neighbor's property, and we had sewer lines running across neighbors' properties, and we've been able to get easements for those purposes by some certain methods of doing that. So we can get this done fairly easily. Again, the collection system is pretty straightforward. The treatment system is going to be the more complicated part of it in terms of not just the design of it, the permitting of it, and the NPDES permits and permits required.
Okay. Great. Yeah, so welcome Ian Ingersoll, phone 134. We've gone around the room. We welcome our new partners from the National Park Service who are headquartered in West Cornwall. And we've sort of had an introduction, a reaffirmation of who's here, what their perspectives are, having been at this for, we think, 8 to 10 years. And certainly you've been host and active member of this effort. So Ian, any thoughts of going forward? And just so you know, Steve has laid out a work plan. We've procedurally gotten the go-ahead to start the design phase. That's the next thing, is to do the surveying, geotechnical work, and then start working on the design of the system in the wintertime. So any thoughts going forward on the project?
Oh, Ian, you're muted. Ian, you're muted.
Yeah, I have to mute.
You
Can't quite hear you. Can you unmute or no?
I could just ask him to, but I can't.
He's got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ian is unable to mute, but we have a few plans to make this a monthly visit, so we will be in touch.
I have a quick question.
Any questions?
The environmental review was really the first step we needed to take to obtain the HUD monies, correct?
The release. We have the money, we just need the release.
Okay. And are there other steps now that the Wild and Scenic are involved?
Yeah, so what's happened? So first thing was we had to hire an engineer to look at the project, and that was done. And then we had to, the town had to act as the reviewing agent to review his review of our work. So that review of his report has been paused, so we have to go back, and once we get the design, we complete the project, then we go back again through the whole review process, hopefully wiser for the experience we've had, and now, we know probably how to do it quicker, but as I laid out, there's going to be a lot of different people we'll have to consult with in order to get this permitted, and as Steve identified, the permitting process will take an unknown amount of time. I mean, I think he'd probably tell us he could get this designed in a year or something, but...
And have we designated the treatment center site?
Well, we are moving on the assumption that the land between the post office and what was formerly the ski shop is the site. We did that before we paused, and I have been in touch with the owner, who is still the owner, who's still wrestling with septic issues on his 2 properties that are adjacent in that part of town. And he's still very much interested in us helping to rejuvenate and bring up to date that, what has been referred to as the east end of West Cornwall, that area. So he wants to work together, and he has septic issues on his 2 properties, so that's key to the use of those properties as much as it is anywhere else in the village. So that's still very much alive, and I think that would be the basis for us proceeding. That seemed to be the best site as we walked and we studied and we traveled around. And now, since we have started things, that the whole floodplain, flood zone, there's 3 or 4 different categories, is a key part of that. And we made an initial determination that the first location was down at the Bend area, and the flooding potential, I think, has become more real and more concern for these review processes. So having a site that's out of the review area that has not historically flooded in West Cornwall makes a lot of sense. So I think...
At what point do you endeavor to get some kind of a agreement?
I think we will once we get a design.
Not till the design.
Yeah, but again, that's coming up pretty quick, hopefully.
So that design, say something falls through and that site, we can't get that site. The design, you'd be able to relocate that somewhere else Steve.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Say if the site that we're thinking about putting the treatment plant falls through, can you still design something and then relocate it if we need to? Or do you have to redesign treatment plant?
Yes, but relocating it, that's the key issue. The plant design itself, we're gonna try to make it a smaller footprint and as unobtrusive and as, in fitting with the environment as possible. And it can be put anywhere. The question is, where do we put it? This is a great spot because it's out of the floodplain, no wetland issues. It's a great site, other than the fact it's uphill.
Yeah. It used to be a commercial, there used to be a commercial building on top of the whole site. It's a disturbed area. But as we spent a lot of time looking for better sites, and we're always open to suggestions, but this seems to have a lot of things going for it in the constricted world of West Cornwall.
Do we have a confirmed number of buildings that will hook up to this system?
No, we don't have that yet because we know what areas we're probably trying to cover, but until we get everything designed, we don't really have a program yet. We have surveyed people, but some of those people either sold their property or moved on. But that will be an obvious thing that we'll do as part of this process once we get it.
Yeah.
Once we get the design down.
And the design, does that matter whether there's say 2 people that sign up or 50 people that sign up?
Well,
buildings?
I can comment on that. Can I comment?
Yes.
We're designing for the future, okay? So, having said that, we don't want to, and Todd and I have talked about this since the beginning, that we want this system flexible enough to be able to accommodate future growth or whatever and future connections. The issue would be if there's only 2 people that sign up for something where we think there's going to be 20 businesses and homes connect up, there could be some initial operational issues with the plant because of the low flow. That's an operational concern. It's not really a big deal issue. So again, we're going to design the system to be flexible enough to be able to accommodate basically the entire village, sort of thing. So it's not really a design concern. It's more of a maintenance and operation concern if there's very few people that connect up initially. But there's ways to accommodate that as well. We may have to feed the system essentially. The system is a biological system essentially, so it's got bugs that keep everything alive that eat the wastewater in a layman's sense. And if there's not enough sewage coming in, that can be a concern. So sometimes we have to feed the bugs in order to keep them alive to be able to achieve the treatment. If there's very, very low flows or very, very low people connect. But we anticipate there's going to be enough level of people connected initially that will not be an issue. But it can be accommodated or accounted for no matter what.
So you must have some calculation to say we need at least 10 people, 10 households in order for this to work without having complications as far as the digestion part and all the stuff.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but yeah, I would say that. And we're counting on something on the order of 20 homes and businesses ultimately, or kind of a semi-initially connecting up. But every system is the same way. When it starts out, there's not that many people connected. So initially there's some startup issues and concerns that are accounted for in the design and the maintenance of the system. I mean, any new system, everybody does not connect up immediately to it. It becomes in stages, so to speak, kind of a rolling admission sort of thing. So that can be accommodated in the maintenance of the system.
Yeah, and
there's no necessarily minimum that have to connect up to the system.
The main lines that you're proposing are down Route 128, into Railroad Square a little bit, and down Lower River Road a little bit. Is that the at the moment?
Yeah. It's pretty much the commercial areas. There are a few obviously residential homes in that area, but future, should they be able to have that option if they wanted to connect? Yes, they should. As engineers, we like to accommodate, we like to plan for the future. And if someone's got a septic system, they're facing a $30,000 septic system correction, they want to connect up to the sewer system, we want to make sure we can accommodate that.
Great. Well, I think those are all good questions. Get us thinking about what some of the issues and challenges are.
Yeah.
Going forward. Any other questions from the committee?
I'm not part of the committee, but I do have a question.
Oh, sure. Did you come here all the way from Springfield?
Well, I mean, yeah, I live in Springfield. I'm based in Springfield, but I came because we actually have a Houstonic River Commission meeting, an HRC meeting after this.
Oh, good. Well,
So I was like, I'm already coming. Yeah.
We'll try to keep you on that schedule.
Yeah, that works for folks. But I guess I'm not too familiar with how like stormwater is managed in Cornwall. So is there plans to have I know combined sewer overflow systems are not ideal, but is there already in place like a stormwater system?
No, well, you've got a stormwater collection system that, I don't think you have any stormwater collection flooding and other issues, but in terms of stormwater treatment and that sort of thing, I don't want to speak for Gordon, I don't think there's anything in place. Is there, Gordon?
No, there's no treatment of stormwater right now. There's basically pipes that go into the brooks from the road. So just so people know, this is a big topic because a lot of bigger systems have their street drains tied into their sewer plants. So when there's big rains, it overflows the sewers into the Naugatuck River, the Connecticut River, or you name it, or the Houstonic. So our system here is going to be contained only for wastewater from these residents and will not be able to be overflowed. So that was one, there was some misinformation that came out earlier that this would allow sewage in an overflow situation to go into the river, which would not be possible because this is a closed system and is not tied into all those drains now. And I don't believe there's any federal or state mandate that all road pipes, I mean, to me, as you said, it's a bad system.
Yeah,
and
it's not great.
It's not, it was not, but it was, and I don't know if those are even permitted nowadays, but it seems like this system is much more of a smaller system.
This seems great. No, I was just curious, based on my personal experience. I've worked at wastewater treatment facilities in the past, and it's up in Chicopee, Massachusetts, and it's a combined sewer system. And so I was like, when you're talking about like making sure that there's enough, I like had flashbacks to like so much outfall just being blasted with like ammonia into the Connecticut River, you know. So I was like, let me make sure.
So that is a key point that gets circulated out there, is equating this project with these bigger systems that are an environmental disaster. But nothing against Chicopee.
Oh no, you can.
Everything's good. I mean, everybody does the best they can. But this is a cutting edge system as far as not doing that.
I was actually going to ask, in that 40-mile scenic, are there any other water treatment plants that you can think of?
I'm not too familiar with how. I would assume there's one in New Milford, but I'm not sure if the outfall is above or below the designation stretch. So I have to do some research.
That discharges its wastewater into the river, New Milford?
I'm not positive, I'm not sure. I was assuming. I'd have to look into it.
Well, we know there are systems in Kent, Salisbury, North Cambridge.
Yes.
And let alone Great Barrington, Pittsfield, that feed into the thing. And I think a lot of those systems do not, in the smaller towns, they don't plug in their storm drains.
Yeah.
But in the bigger places,
Oh, yeah, no, because that's just how it was historically then.
That's what it was. And some of those systems are 100 years old.
Exactly.
And Steve has renovated some of those systems.
I can,
Is Norfolk tied into their storm drains, Steve?
No,
great.
No,
So there are.
They drain to the depths now.
Yeah, they do through, eventually that that goes into Houston.
Is it a treatment plant? Or is it-
Yeah, but it's 100 years old, it was
Yeah.
state of the art.
There was some EPA funding a few years ago to retrofit a lot of those out-of-date facilities, but it's hard when you have like
Yeah.
your small city and you have.
But
like,
I think all the towns that I mentioned that we know of have worked on trying to improve or maintain, upgrade their systems
Yeah.
so they don't leak, because it's expensive to try to deal with all that water.
Yeah, definitely. No, this sounds great. Do you have, is there like a copy of the plans that Steve has?
Sure.
That
And
I could just like?
Jane can send you all that,
Yeah.
or we call it a Dropbox. We have all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this seems great. Yeah, sorry, I didn't get a chance.
All good. That's it. So, any other public comments? Any other comments from the committee?
I have a comment.
Yes, Dave.
One that's going to be difficult to share with you. I have, Sandy and I have a buyer for our house. And so we are going to be moving on up to Massachusetts where a lot of our family are located. For me, as I said, it's a very emotional experience for me. I've been involved in this area for such a long time. Wonderful people, lots of friends. But the new people that are buying the house, they have young children, and they seem to be very nice people. So we're going to be heading out, and I'm not sure how soon, but it appears to be fairly soon, as we've got family up there that have already bought a little house for us. So we're trapped. It's good, but it's tough for me. I respect all of you. Most of us are good friends, we've been around for a long time. And hopefully we'll be back to see you once in a while. In the meantime, stay well.
Just because you moved back,
Yes.
just because you moved to Massachusetts doesn't mean you can't stay on the committee and participate.
Yes.
You can get all the.
Well, you have your input, Dave. I think, your input, Dave, you've been here since day one. I definitely think it's your input that we're looking for. And whether you live, up on Cream Hill or in Massachusetts, I would have no problem.
Yeah.
Well, if that's good with you, then I'd like to continue.
Great.
Keep them in the loop.
Yeah.
You gotta be here for the first flush.
I also have, I'll share with you too, I share too much, according to me. But in any case, I do have some fairly serious health issues that are affecting my thinking. My IQ, I think, is slipping a bit. But in any case, I just wanted to let you know that I'm also dealing with that.
And we appreciate all you've done, and look forward to seeing you virtually, if not in person.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So any other comments?
Oh, one more.
One more.
I can't drive anymore, so could you take me home?
Sorry.
I got it, nothing but that.
In the bucket loader.
We'll take care of you, Dave.
Thank you, you always have, Bill.
Okay, any public comments?
No, so we'll have a meeting a month,
Yeah, we'll
the
just
second Tuesday of the month.
at 5 o'clock. Yeah,
Okay.
so that way they can give the latest
And
news.
then,
to the
right,
river.
so Steve, you'll be getting your contract into the surveying and stuff like that, or you have in-house for that?
Yes, I'm not sure how far we're gonna get, we're not gonna get terribly advanced by your next meeting, I'll be honest with you. Everybody's really busy, this is a really nice project for us to get moving ahead on, so I'm gonna press people, but, so we'll see how it goes. We gotta get proposals in for the survey work and compare them, and, we're not just gonna pick someone, we have to look at the cost and the timing of it and everything else for all the services, so it'll take a little bit of to get somewhat organized, but anyway, we're anxious to move ahead. This is really nice to get a move ahead.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
Full speed ahead.
Full speed ahead. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody again.
Yeah.
Yep, likewise.